and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. It is no secret that I am an avid reader, and just in 2024 I read over 125 books, and the year isn't even over yet. But I wanted to sit down and talk about my top 10 favorite books, because even though we aren't at the very end of the year, the chances of me stumbling upon another 5-star book that would top any of the books mentioned in this video is pretty rare. If it happens, I will talk about it, but I don't expect it to happen. So these are my top 10 favorite books that I read this year, and what I'm gonna do is, since I do have a TikTok where I talk all about these, I'm just gonna briefly talk on here about the book, and then I will go ahead and include my TikTok review of it. And the order that I'm gonna show you guys these in are the order that I read them. They're not in order by favorite or anything like that. And if you guys have any questions about these books, let me know what they are in the comments down below. And if you guys have any book suggestions, let me know what those are as well. And be sure to go follow me over on my book TikTok if you aren't already. It's just at Alexa's Book Talk, and I would love it if you would go over and start interacting with me there, especially if you are a reader. So without further ado, let's get started. First up, we have The Stepping Off Place by Cameron Kelly Rosenblum. Fun fact, I had Mrs. Rosenblum as a kindergarten teacher, and I picked this book up at the beginning of this year, and I recognized the author's name. However, it didn't click to me until I saw the little author's blurb towards the back of the book and saw her picture, and then it clicked, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I read the book, and let me tell you, this book is such an emotional one. This is a YA contemporary book that has a lot of mental health aspects in it, and the general summary of this book is that there are two best friends named Reed and Hattie, and they are going into their senior year of high school, and every year Hattie goes to Maine for the summer. However, this summer's a little different because Hattie doesn't end up coming home for her senior year after what everyone is considering an unalive attempt. However, her best friend Reed is determined to prove that it was in fact not an unalive attempt, and by the end you do find out what has really happened, and it follows Reed on her journey throughout the entire summer finding answers. She goes to Maine to the exact place Hattie has supposedly unalived herself. She gets together with friends, and all together they end up with answers. They may not be the answers they want, but they are the true answers. And even though it is a YA contemporary mental health related book, it does, in my opinion, also give off subtle mystery thriller vibes as well. Up next, we have Dead Man's Wake by Paul Doiron. Paul Doiron is one of my absolute favorite authors, and he is a Maine author. All of his books are part of a series, and they are all about a fictitious game warden named Mike Bowditch. This one in particular, I have a lot of connections with. This book in particular takes place on the exact lake that I have spent every summer since I was little at, and that would be Belgrade Lakes, and it takes place specifically on Great Pond. But having grown up on this lake, it was so much fun to read. I could really picture everything that was going on and that was being said. I've been to every single one of the true locations mentioned, and the quick summary about this book is that Mike Bowditch is at his own engagement party when he hears a boating accident off in the distance. And Mike, being a game warden, goes ahead and gets in the boat, goes to check it out, and he finds some body parts in the lake. And again, being a game warden, he jumps right in to investigate what is going on. And it's one of those books where when you think you know who did it, it completely changes. And by the end, you will probably be shocked, because I know I was. And this is by far my absolute favorite book that he has written. And if you are someone who really enjoys mystery thrillers, I highly recommend picking up one of his books and giving them a try. I promise you, it will not disappoint. The next book is definitely a thick one. It is by far the thickest book I have read this year, and this is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. And let me tell you, I am not a historical fiction girly in any way, shape, or form. However, this book is something else. It is so good. I was super nervous with how thick it was, but let me tell you, I flew through this book because of how good it was. And a little bit of a quick summary about it is it's about a teacher from Lisbon, Maine, whose friend owns a diner, and in this diner there is a wormhole that can bring you back in time. And so the owner of the diner asks the teacher to go back in time and try to prevent the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And obviously a ton happens because of how thick the book is. And I'm obviously not going to tell you if he was successful or not, because that's the whole point of reading the book. But let me just tell you, even though this looks like a scary book because it is so big, it is 100% worth reading. It is 831 pages. However, it did not feel like that while I was reading. Next up, we Up, the Only One Left by Riley Sager. This is my first Riley Sager book and by far my absolute favorite. This is another book that takes place here in the state of Maine, and I don't know what it is about it, but just being on the cliffside, and it just reminds me of home, and it was such an amazing mystery thriller. And a quick little summary about this book is that it's about a woman named Kit, who is a home health aide who actually ends up taking some time off for an unforeseen event that they do end up talking about in the book that I'm not going to talk about here because I will give stuff away. And when she finally does return to work, her new assignment is taking care of an elderly woman named Lenora Hope, whom everyone believes hung her sister and unalived her parents. And Kit makes it her mission during her employment at the Hope House to reveal what truly happened on the night that everything went down. And by the end of the book, you learn absolutely everything, and I cannot recommend it enough. And if I had to pick only 3 books that I loved this year, this one would definitely make the cut. Another book that will have you absolutely non-stop thinking and on your toes is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. This book was incredible, and let me tell you, the twist at the end will send you for a complete loop and have you questioning everything that you just read. This is by far one of the best mystery thrillers I have ever read, and if I had to only recommend one book that I read this year, it would by far definitely be this one. A little bit about this book is that it is a mystery thriller about this family who gets together for one last family reunion because the grandmother is not doing well. And this is happening after years of them avoiding one another for one reason or another. And the reunion takes place at the grandmother's house, which is on an island, and the house is called Sea Glass. And when you are at Sea Glass, once the tide comes in, you are stuck there until low tide. So you are stuck there for a good 8 to 12 hours. And all of this is taking place during a huge storm. And throughout the entire book, one by one, family members end up unalived. And by the end, when the tide finally goes out, there's only a few of them left. And if them getting stuck on an island until the tide goes back out isn't enough to get you to read this book, I don't know what is. Out of all the books that I read this year, this one by far was my absolute favorite. It is one I cannot stop talking about. It is the one book that I recommend to absolutely everyone. Next up is The September House. This is the perfect book to read during spooky season. I actually read this book twice this year. That's how much I really enjoyed it. I originally read it back in, I believe, the summer. However, I also wanted to read it during spooky season, specifically in the month of September, since September is such a big part of this book. A little bit about this book is that it is a paranormal horror thriller book about this couple who buys a Victorian house that they quickly learn is haunted, especially during the month of September, because every September the walls bleed, ghosts begin to appear, and absolutely everyone is afraid of what is lurking in the basement. While most people would leave or sell the house, the woman Margaret decides that she is going to stay. However, her husband Hal is not in agreement and he suddenly disappears. Finally, when Margaret and Hal's daughter Catherine comes for her first visit to the September house, things begin to unfold. And if you want to hear the rest, you're just gonna have to read it for yourself. And it's one of those books that you can easily knock out within a day or two. And based off my own personal opinion, it's one that I think anyone could enjoy. Next up is a very popular book that probably won't surprise anyone, and that is It Ends With Us. It may surprise some of you because I'm not really a romance girly. However, It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us are 2 amazing romance books. A little bit about this book. Like I said, it is a contemporary romance about a woman named Lily who grew up in Maine and is now making her dreams come true in Boston. One day, she ends up falling in love with a neurosurgeon named Ariel, but she quickly learns everything isn't what it seems, and she learns that both her relationship and her life are in jeopardy. Amidst this new relationship, she has thoughts about her first love, Atlas, and when Atlas suddenly reappears in Lily's life, everything she has with Ariel is in danger. If I had to pick between the 2, It Starts With Us would definitely be my favorite. However, I didn't think that it made a lot of sense to feature a second book that's part of a series in a favorites video like this, so I decided to go with the first one since I did give both of them 5 stars and absolutely loved both of them. Another really good romance book that, again, may surprise people since I'm not really a romance girly is Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. A little bit about this book is that it is a contemporary romance about a girl named Percy who spends every summer at the lake, and within minutes of them first moving in, she quickly becomes best friends with the boy next door, and his name is Sam. Sam lives there year-round, and every summer when Percy arrives, they begin spending every summer together. However, everything changes one summer, and they end up losing contact until one day when Sam's mom passes away, and Percy ends
ends up going to the funeral. And them being this close together will be the test to see if they get back together or not.
I absolutely love this book. It reminded me so much of things that have happened in my personal life with others, and it just tore at my heartstrings and was such a great read. I did read it this summer, so it had the perfect vibes while I was reading it. Going back, another book that takes place in Maine that I absolutely loved that I read more recently was The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. This is another one of those books that hit close to home for the simple fact that it was about Martha Ballard, who was a really well-known midwife here in the state of Maine back in the 1700s, and she is actually a very distant relative of mine, so I was very intrigued when my cousins were talking about this up at our camp, and so I had to get my hands on it and read it, and let me tell you, it is so good.
A little bit about this book is that it is a historical fiction mystery thriller about a midwife named Martha Ballard that takes place here in the state of Maine back in 1789. As a midwife, Martha also has other abilities within her scope of practice, and one day she's asked to examine a body and determine the cause of unaliving, which then leads to an open criminal case within a small-knit community. But everything changes when a local physician tries to label the unaliving as an accident. Luckily, Martha keeps a diary of everything she does, so they are able to use her journal as evidence. And throughout the book, you gotta figure out who did it, and if it really is an accident. And let me tell you, I was shocked by the ending.
And it's just so interesting to read how different mother-baby healthcare was back then compared to how it is now. They literally did absolutely nothing back then, and pretty much everyone turned out fine. And then if you compare it to today, where everything is done in a hospital and everything like that, it's just very interesting to learn the history aspect of it. And the last book is Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult. This was a really fantastic book. I learned so many facts about bees, and it's made me fall back in love with Jodi Picoult's writing.
A little bit about this book is that it is a contemporary mystery novel about a woman named Olivia who recently left her seemingly perfect life behind to start over, and she ended up back in her hometown in New Hampshire, where she ends up taking over her father's beekeeping business. Another character we meet in this book is Lily, and Lily is also familiar with relocating to New Hampshire because she recently did with her mother so that she could have a fresh start for her senior year. At some point, Lily and Olivia's paths cross, and Olivia's son Asher falls for Lily. However, everything changes when Olivia receives a phone call informing her that Lily has passed away and her son is the #1 suspect.
And there's just something about this book that had me in a chokehold and left me with the biggest book hangover that I literally didn't think I was going to pick up another book for the rest of the year. Obviously I did, but just the way this book took such an emotional toll on me and was so good, I just can't even describe it. So out of the over 125 books that I read this year, these were by far my top 10 favorites. It was definitely hard picking just 10 to show you guys, but these are books that I cannot stop talking about, have been talking about throughout the year since I've read each of them, and are ones that I will probably talk about forever because that's how much I love them. Like I said earlier, if you guys aren't already, be sure to go follow me over on TikTok. It is just at Alexa's Book Talk. And if you have any book recommendations, let me know what they are in the comments down below. While you guys are down there, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I upload new content regularly and would love it if you'd become part of our little family. Also be sure to hit the bell so that you are in fact notified every time I do upload a new video. I hope you guys liked this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys!